about the history of London, you can even get married on the Eye as well. You do your I-dos at the top, and then it's downhill all the way from there. Flight on the Eye takes approximately 30 minutes. The Jubilee footbridges, these replace the old Hungerford footbridges. The Victorian Hungerford railway track is in between the two. The curved building on its left is Embankment Place, which is above Charing Cross Station. On our right-hand side, we have the Royal Festival Hall, built in 1951 for the Festival of Britain and home to the London Philharmonic. It's actually being modernised at the moment, should be reopened summer next year. Next door to that are two smaller concert halls, the Queen Elizabeth Hall and the Purcell Rooms, the Connect 1976. Here we are coming towards Waterloo Bridge. Now the original bridge across this area of the Thames was once known as the Strand Bridge. The Strand is just behind the buildings on our left-hand side, renamed Waterloo Bridge after the Great Battle of Waterloo 1815. This version dated 80% of the workforce were female, made of Portland stone, and cleans itself whenever the rain hits the bridge. Staying on our right-hand side, the large grey building with the electronic advertising, that's the Royal National Theatre, comprising of three theatres, the Olivier, Cottesloe and Littleton Theatre. Laurence Olivier, the famous actor, he was the first artistic director of the Royal Architecture. The RBF headquarters are next door. The larger tower we can see on our right with the aerials on top, that's part of London Weekend Television, as are the buildings down in front of it as well. London Weekend Television, now known as the London Studios. Many of our nation's favourite programmes come from here, for example, GMTV, London Tonight this morning. Cilla Black's Blind Date came from there as well, and the iconic and highly educational programme, Anton Deck, Saturday Night Takeaway. Cubes. It was also once a meat production warehouse. Now in the 1930s in London there are very strict advertising laws. Companies weren't allowed to advertise their products along the Thames, but when the owners bought this factory, they decided to decorate this obsolete tower, as they put it, with 3 geometric shapes. Backlit it, lit it up at night, and it just happened to spell out the name of their product. Of course they got taken to court over it. Their argument was that if churches can have stained glass windows, why can't we? There's nothing actually in that tower. What's below it is a restaurant, which is owned by Harvey Nichols, some apartments, subsidised by the restaurant, and the shops and art galleries on the lower level. On our left-hand side, the large domed cathedral, St. Paul's Cathedral, is our site over on Ludgate Hill. This version replaces the medieval one that stood over there for over 500 years until it got burned down during the Great Fire of London 1666. 1675, Sir Christopher Wren was commissioned to design this St. Paul's, completed around about 1710. So at the moment it's been cleaned and restored, ready for its 300th birthday, 2010. We shall return to St. Paul's very shortly, because here we've just passed under Alexandra Railway Bridge. Once more on our left-hand side, there we have St. Paul's Cathedral, second largest domed cathedral in the world, second only to St. Peter's in Rome, of course. 365 feet tall, 1 foot for every day of the year. This is where Prince Charles married the late Lady Diana Spencer, 1981. Winston Churchill's funeral took place there in 1965. The civil rights leader Martin Luther King spoke there in 1964. St. Paul's has the nickname of the Beauty, and over on our right-hand side, this thatched roof building is a detailed reproduction of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, made in the same method and made with the same tools and materials as the original. It's held together with wooden hinges, wooden slates, wooden beams, wooden pins. The only modern features, sprinkler system, no fire extinguishers. Unlike the original, the reproduction of course is open air. So if you go to your play there, with the front, and it rains, what happens? You get wet. It's built quite close to the site of the original, which is over in Southwark is just behind the buildings on our right-hand side. And we're coming under Southwark Bridge, dubbed the least used bridge in London, because when it was built, no main roads connect to the bridge. This used to be one of London's first toll bridges as well. Yards away from the Anchor Path. In the gap between the buildings on our right, a replica of Sir Francis Drake's original ship, the Golden Hind. 1577, Sir Francis was the first Englishman to sail around the world on the original. He returned 3 years later with the equivalent of £25 million worth of treasure. Apparently he stole that from the Spanish and the Portuguese. When he returned, he was given the equivalent of £10,000 and a knighthood because the amount he came back with of this version. This one dates back to 1972. Historians believe the first ever bridge to cross the Thames was found about this area, built by the Romans of course, and they believe that first ever bridge may have dated way back to 43 AD. But on our return journey, we shall discuss the more famous and much... So here we are in the part of the Thames once known as the Old Port of London. A vast majority of the buildings on our right-hand side. These used to be warehouses storing goods and foodstuffs from all over the world. The sandy-coloured building on our right with the glass domed roof, that's where they used to store wines, spices, dairy products from all over the world. It's now Hayes Galleria with some wonderful shops and restaurants. A quick footnote about this building: if you walk from this end to the other end, you will end up at Tooley Street, where the London dungeons are. We're coming alongside HMS Belfast, the largest lightweight cruiser in the British fleet in World War II.